Let's start with the topic of conscience. Is conscience formed by trauma, similar to the general population? How can we trust a compass made in the fire of pain without first asking whether the flames have warped its direction? Trauma's imprint on moral development is far from theoretical. Studies in 2025 show striking figures that among children and adolescents exposed to traumatic events, approximately 25% develop PTSD, one of the highest strains in psychiatry today. Complex trauma, coming from chronic abuse or emotional neglect, can structurally change emotional regulation, memory, cognition, and even the development of morals in youth. Meanwhile, emerging research on recovery highlights that individuals with higher self-compassion not only fare better psychologically, but also exhibit greater post-traumatic growth, even amidst substantial stress, with self-compassion moderating the trauma growth relationship and explaining 16% of the variance in positive outcome. These data underscore attention. While trauma shapes a powerful moral framework, it may do so unevenly, and resilience factors like self-compassion play a pivotal role whether that conscience becomes a guide or a distortion. Studies on moral reasoning have shown that despite higher rates of PTSD or anxiety among trauma survivors, their ability to distinguish the right from wrong often aligns without those kind of histories. Many people, regardless of backgrounds, are influenced by personal biases, cultural norms, and emotional states when making moral decisions. Trauma survivors are no exception. In fact, resilience research suggests that a significant portion of individuals who have endured trauma adapt by merging their experiences into a moral foundation that is basically no more screwed than anyone else's. The human conscience, whether shaped by peace or trauma, is still subject to the same strengths and flaws that guide moral judgment across the wider population. Critics may argue that a conscience shaped by trauma is inherently less trustworthy, because intense pain can develop hypervigilance, skepticism, and rigid moral truths. They point out that trauma survivors may react more strongly to perceived threats or injustices, interpreting moral dilemmas in the eyes of past harm. While these concerns are valid, they overlook the fact that all moral foundation, trauma-born or not, are products of personal experiences and emotional influences. Moreover, research on post-traumatic growth shows that many survivors consciously tone down their judgment with empathy, precisely because they understand the consequences of harm. In other words, while trauma may color a person's moral perspective, it is not necessarily clouded with any more than privilege, culture, or upbringing can distort the moral principle of someone who has never experienced trauma. From the vantage point of an offspring of Asian guardians, I have grown up hearing mixed messages about those with difficult pasts. Some relatives carried the belief that hardships automatically harden the heart and develop the behaviors of being secretive, making individuals known with these kind of pasts less trustworthy. Others, often shaped by their own struggles, insisted that pain creates deeper compassion and wisdom. This tension between caution and empathy became part of my moral education, forcing me to see that people with trauma are not a single predictable type. Instead, they are varied as the rest of us, capable of both the same flaws and same virtues, regardless of the roads they walked. Looking at the evidence and lived experiences, it becomes clear that a conscience shaped by trauma is not inherently weaker or stronger. It is simply human. Trauma may leave emotional scars, but so does privilege, cultural conditioning, and everyday biases. None of these factors alone define virtue. The bigger picture is that society should focus less on labeling whose conscience can be trusted, and more on creating conditions that support healthy moral growth for everyone. This means investing in accessible mental health care, fostering environments where empathy is practiced across differences, and encouraging open dialogue that bridges personal histories rather than isolates them.